I don't like spending too much talking about domestic politics on this channel. I think that there are plenty of useless talking heads that talk about it all the time, every day. But I make certain exceptions sometimes when I think there's something important or interesting. Yesterday was one of those days, and today, the news kind of hits close to home for me, so I do want to get my 2 cents in on it. And what I'm referring to is Ron DeSantis' suspension of Andrew Warren, I think his first name's Andrew, the state attorney for Hillsborough County. And Andrew Warren is one of what you would call, in the rest of the country, a Soros-backed DA. We don't have district attorneys. In Florida, we call them state attorneys. And their districts, I think, in almost every case, overlap with a county or multiple counties in some cases. Like, I think that Orange and Osceola have the same state attorney because there aren't a lot of people in Osceola County, and the people that are there mostly live, at the far north of the county, and are pretty much just bleeding over from Orlando, which is Orange County. So you can think of the state attorney as basically a county-level official, like the sheriff, but they are not a part of the county government. So these are county-level state officials. They work for the state. They're a part of the state. They're not a part of the devolved county or even municipal governments. And because of that, they are technically under the purview of the governor. The governor is their executive. All of the sheriffs in the state and all the state attorneys, while they are popularly elected by their constituents, they still have to answer to the governor. And the governor has the power to remove these people, under certain grounds, and appoint a replacement. Now, he can't just, pick whoever he wants and hire a new person forever. There will need to be another election, and I think that his replacement can finish out Andrew Warren's term. I haven't exactly been able to find concrete information on that yet, but from what I remember when DeSantis did this when he first came into office, because I tried to contact someone to find out if this replacement, because he replaced Andrew Warren with a county judge who was appointed before by DeSantis. So he replaced Andrew Warren with someone who is of his ilk. And for those of you who don't know, Hillsborough County is kind of a D+10 sort of county. You get mid-50s for Democrats and mid-40s for Republicans, typically. Of course, it does vary, and we do go through a lot of growth in the state, so vote shares in certain counties can change from election to election by quite a few points. But for a while, that's kind of where Hillsborough's been. Now, I'm old enough to remember when Hillsborough was a Republican stronghold. It's where Tampa is. It is one of the major counties for, urban centers in the state. Though Tampa is always kind of wedged in the corner of Hillsborough County. Most of Hillsborough County was agricultural land for a very, very long time. That has changed over the past few decades. It is now highly, highly suburbanized, and I think suburban Hillsborough County is just hideous and undesirable, but that's just my opinion. Obviously, a lot of people disagree with me because they have moved to Hillsborough County. The population there has grown, just like the rest of Florida, quite a bit. And as Hillsborough has grown, it has become, it has transitioned from being a red county to a blue county. Now, there are questions, is this because of outsiders moving in, or is it potentially because of Republican voters moving out of Hillsborough County into the northern suburbs of Tampa, which are in a different county? Now, why do I bring this up? Why am I talking about demographic shifts and vote changes in Hillsborough County? What does that have to do with this guy getting removed? Well, everyone's talking about what DeSantis' specific problems with this guy were. That he was not willing to enforce restrictions on abortion or on sex changes for minors, and that is important, but I'm more interested in how this is going to play politically, because DeSantis is not an idiot. He doesn't do things, he doesn't operate in a vacuum. He's not just getting rid of this guy because he disagrees with his policies. He wouldn't do this if he thought that he was going to take a big hit for this. He's doing this because he thinks that it's politically popular. And when you go removing democratically elected, local officials, that is dangerous territory. You could experience a backlash from that. And so for DeSantis to take this step, I think that he has to believe that it is popular and that he is going to have support in doing this. And so that's why I bring up the history, the electoral history of Hillsborough County and the broader Tampa Bay area. Because I think that while Hillsborough County itself is a blue county, historically, that is not the character of that county. That is not their political tradition. And I think that what's happened is a lot of the Republican vote has shifted into Pasco and Hernando counties. People have moved out of Hillsborough County to the north. Now, yes, some people have also moved south into the county, into those southern suburbs. But it's quite noticeable when you look at maps of electoral history. The two counties north of Hillsborough, Pasco and Hernando, which are now very deep red counties, in 2000 both voted for Al Gore, and historically were southern Dixiecrat counties. They were Democratic. And so one might be tempted to say maybe the reason why those counties are so deep red now is because just of the change in voting patterns of Dixiecrats, of legacy Democrats in places like West Virginia, North Carolina, and yes, the Florida Panhandle, which kind of extends culturally down to Pasco and Hernando. They're not that distant from northern Florida. In fact, when you go there and you look at the foliage, kind of before they built everything, if you just look at what the actual natural environment is of especially Hernando County, but also Pasco, it very much feels in tune with northern Florida. But I don't think that it's just the native residents, the longtime residents, multi-generational residents of these two counties who have turned it red. I think that it is the people moving out of there from Tampa, or perhaps just moving to the Tampa area and moving straight into these counties, who have made them so deeply red, because the populations have exploded in the past couple of decades. And so what this means is that the Tampa Metro, the people which the Hillsborough County State Attorney, while not directly presiding over them, he is sort of within their cultural and political orbit. I think that the broader base of people who work in Tampa and live near Tampa would support this action. If you just look at Hillsborough County itself, no, they're not going to support this, because Hillsborough County is, D plus 10. But when you zoom out and you look at all the counties surrounding Hillsborough is the only really solidly blue one. And I shouldn't even say solid. I mean, normally people say, to be solid, you got to be over 10%. But I'll say solidly blue for the purposes of this. I mean, you've got Pinellas, which is, teetering right on the edge. It's very split, Pinellas, although kind of leans slightly blue. Like that's the way that it's been going, but it's always like 51% Democrat. And Charlie Crist, who's running for governor and is, the congressman that covers most of Pinellas County, his seat is going to, in all likelihood, flip Republican in this cycle. And so I think the narrative of sacking a Soros-backed prosecutor in the broader Tampa Bay Metro is going to play well. I think it's going to energize Republican voters in Hillsborough County, as well as Republican voters in the surrounding counties, and I think DeSantis hopes the entire state. But I think this is a meaningful place because it's not like he went to Broward County, which we all know is very deep blue. It's the most Democratic county in the state. That's just how they are. Kind of people accept that's how Broward is. But to go to a place like Tampa that a lot of Republicans in Florida think of as friendly territory and pluck out this guy who is so out of tune with what most people in Florida regard to be the character of the Tampa Metro and of Hillsborough County more broadly, I think is ultimately going to be a smart move. Because what DeSantis is doing is he's drawing a line and saying, no, we don't have a place like Philadelphia or New York City or San Francisco in our state, and these people don't belong here, and it won't be tolerated. Because it's not just a matter of him tolerating it or not. If there was a lot of popular support for the Soros DA archetype, this would not play well for him. This would create a backlash, which would not be good for DeSantis. But, as I mentioned earlier, this is not his first go-around of removing elected state officers. He removed the sheriff of Broward County after the Parkland shooting, Steve Israel, or Scott Israel, one of the two. A close associate, I should add, of Roger Stone, the Democratic sheriff of Broward County. It's quite interesting. For bungling the Parkland shooting, which he then tried to use to as a springboard to make himself like a national political figure and become a big gun control advocate. It all blew up in his face, and he was removed, and a new sheriff was appointed. And I believe he also removed both the supervisor of elections for Palm Beach and Broward County for their attempts at fortifying the 2018 election. And since those two were removed, our elections in Florida have, well, we've only had the 2020 election, but I anticipate also the 2022 election will go incredibly smoothly, and there will be no hiccups. In 2018, there was quite a big hiccup in Broward and Palm Beach counties. They did not want to report their votes. They said, oh, we're still counting. It takes us a very long time. They were pulling things like Maricopa County polls in Arizona. But I think in time, Broward County will lose that reputation as people see that our elections are run well here. So DeSantis has a good track record politically, and I think, policy-wise, pragmatically, with removing these bad apples. Because I think what he called it was a contagion or something to that effect. This culture of the Soros-backed DA and everything that they represent, and he didn't want that to infect our state. He wanted to pluck this guy out before he became a problem. And the justification, of course, is that this guy was not, has openly said he did not want to enforce the laws of the state as written. He was going to use prosecutorial discretion to permit how should I put this? I said it earlier, I think, but now I feel like I should mince words a little bit. Oh, hell, I'll just say it. Sex changes for minors. And I guess he was also going to not enforce the new restriction on abortion, which is to like 5 weeks, I think. So we're going to have castrating kids and late-term abortions in Hillsborough County, and I think that is certainly enough justification to remove this guy without it just seeming like a political hit job. And if you score some good political points as a result of it, that's just a bonus. But again, when you're talking about people who are elected at the county, at the county level, you have to be tactful about where you remove people, because it gets too much as if, it could give the impression eventually that you're just trying to override the will of the people, which would look quite bad. But I think that DeSantis has been selective enough in the times he did this. He's only removed people who were openly and egregiously negligent in their duties. Steve Israel, nobody complained about that. He was a clown. He was a failure. It was a disaster. Brenda Snipes, likewise. She was so bad, nobody could really defend her. Because she also rigged Democratic primaries. Not just the general election for the Democrats. She rigged primaries in favor of, Democratic primary challengers. So a lot of people in Broward County were still upset with her. And the woman in Palm Beach was just seen as, Brenda Snipes Jr. So, with that said, I think that this was an effective move, and we'll see where it goes from here. Only time will tell if this is going to work out well, but I think, after taking all day to think about it, I think this is going to work out well. So, With that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.